My name is Dr. Matute, University of Arkansas, PTC, and this is a brief discussion of the endocrine system. This is A&P2, of course. You've been provided with some study materials, lectures, and diagrams. You also have a textbook. I will suggest that you have those by you open because the discussion we're going to have now, or the presentation I'm going to make, is going to be making reference to that. So the endocrine system is one of the two control systems in the human body. The nervous system is one of those control systems, and the endocrine system is the other control system. The endocrine system functions by producing hormones. The endocrine system functions by producing hormones. Hormones are chemical substances or chemical messengers. They are produced from one part of the body and they are transported to another part of the body where they have an effect. Now, the endocrine system is described as ductless. Ducts are vessels, like blood vessels, but the endocrine system does not have any vessels. So the endocrine system uses the circulatory system, uses blood to transport its hormones throughout the body. There are four main functions of the endocrine system. There are four main functions of the endocrine system. Number one, it controls digestive activities or digestive processes. It controls reproductive processes. It regulates growth, development, and metabolism. And it controls homeostasis of blood composition and volume. When we say it controls digestive processes, digestion essentially involves the breakdown of food, the absorption of nutrients, and the elimination of what was not absorbed. So that is controlled by the endocrine system. Reproductive system, how does it control that? As we know that humans do not start making babies or making matured sperm cells or matured egg cells. They have to get onto a certain stage, a certain age, what we call puberty. And then after a while also, they may stop producing functional egg cells and functional sperm cells. So all of that is controlled. The endocrine system controls that. Regulation of growth. As you are aware, normally we stop growing at age 18. Sometimes it could be 17, sometimes it could be 19. But generally we stop growing at age 18. So we do not grow forever. That control is done by the endocrine system. Development, it's when an egg cell is fertilized by a sperm cell, you start off like a small pinhead, and then eventually the development moves from one level to another, until a miniature human being is actually formed that will grow big, and after about say 9 months, that baby is actually delivered. So there are a lot of changes that occur in between there. They are controlled by the endocrine system. Metabolism is a collective word for all of the chemical reactions that occur in our bodies. All of these chemical reactions, they are controlled by the endocrine system. We are sustained by chemical reactions. Homeostasis of blood composition and volume. As you probably are aware, homeostasis is keeping the internal environment constant or stable. So when we talk about blood composition, we have, if you look at the human blood, which we'll cover eventually, we have the living component and we have the non-living component. The living component is made up of 3 types of cells. Now, the endocrine system ensures that we have the required number of each of these groups of cells. The non-living components, which are the solutes, we have electrolytes, organic molecules, non-organic molecules, etc. Again, we're supposed to have certain levels or certain concentrations in our blood, and the endocrine system ensures that that balance is maintained. Homeostasis of blood volume. For example, women have 5 to 6 liters of blood. No, sorry, women have 4 to 5 liters of blood. Men have 5 to 6 liters of blood. If a man has less than 5 liters of blood, the man can go into circulatory shock. And the same goes for women. If they have less than 4 liters of blood, they may go into circulatory shock. So the endocrine system ensures that blood volume remains constant. So one more time, there are 4 functions of the endocrine system: homeostasis of blood composition and volume, regulation of growth, development and metabolism, control of reproductive processes, and control of digestive processes. Now, the structures in the human body that produce hormones can be classified into 2. The structures in the human body that produce hormones can be classified into 2. Check the notes that we provided to you. We have the endocrine glands and the endocrine organs. Endocrine glands and endocrine organs. How many are listed there in your note under endocrine glands? There should be 5. How many are listed there in your notes under endocrine organs? There should be 12. So what is the difference between an endocrine gland and an endocrine organ? An endocrine gland has one function only: hormone production. An endocrine organ has more than one function. One of these functions will include hormone production. An example of an endocrine gland will be the pineal gland. The pineal gland is found in the brain. It produces melatonin, which is associated with sleep. The ovary is an endocrine organ. It produces estrogen, which is a hormone. It also produces the egg cell, which is a non-hormonal function. You have to be in a position where, if you are given a diagram, you can identify the different positions of the 17 hormone producing structures in the human body as provided in your lecture notes. You also have to be in a position where, if you are given a list of endocrine glands and one included an endocrine organ there, you should be able to tell which one is the odd one out. Let's just quickly say something about the chemistry of hormones. Now, before we look at the chemistry of hormones, if you go back to the study materials that were provided to you, you are actually given the name. You are given the name of the endocrine gland or the name of the endocrine organ, the hormone that it produces, and the function that it carries out. So please study that. That information has been provided to you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Let's say something about the chemistry of hormones. Hormones originate from proteins or from lipids. So hormones are protein based or lipid based. Most hormones are protein based. Few hormones are lipid based. Examples of hormones that are lipid based will be the steroid hormones. Sex hormones will be examples of steroid hormones. So estrogen will be a sex hormone in females. Testosterone will be a sex hormone in males. How do hormones affect the activities of cells? There are 5 ways by which hormones affect the activities of cells. Number 1, permeability. Number 2, protein synthesis. Number 3, activate and deactivate enzymes. Number 4, they can induce secretion. Number 5, mitosis. So hormones can tell a cell to start dividing. As you remember, mitosis is one type of cell division. Permeability. So membranes can change the permeability of the plasma membrane of a cell. In other words, when we say change permeability, it can allow for substances to be able to move inside the cell, such substances which otherwise will be restricted from entering into the cell. So it can allow for movement in and out of the cell. That will change the permeability of the membrane. Hormones can tell a cell to start producing proteins or to stop producing proteins. Hormones can activate or deactivate enzymes. Enzymes are catalysts. They speed up chemical reactions. So hormones have the capability of speeding up, of inducing the speeding up of a chemical reaction or the slowing down of a chemical reaction. So if hormones wanted to slow down a chemical reaction, they will deactivate the enzymes. If hormones wanted to speed up a chemical reaction, they will activate the enzymes. Secretions. Well, hormones are secreted. So hormones, they control the secretion of substances in the human body. So one more time, there are 5 ways by which the hormones actually affect the activities of cells: permeability, protein synthesis, activate/deactivate enzymes, secretions, and mitotic cell divisions. Now, for a hormone to be able to affect the activity of a cell, that hormone has to be able to enter the cell. The hormone has to be able to enter the cell. For a hormone to enter the cell, the hormone has to pass through the plasma membrane. Lipid hormones, they have no problem passing through the plasma membrane. Lipid hormones do not have a problem passing through the plasma membrane. In other words, the lipid hormones can diffuse very easily into the plasma membrane, into the cell. It can diffuse very easily into the cell. The reason why lipid hormones can diffuse easily into the cell is because the structural composition of the plasma membrane is mostly lipid. Protein hormones cannot readily enter into the cell. They need assistance entering the cell. So they have what we call a second messenger. A second messenger is another chemical inside the cell that will help to pull the protein hormone into the cell. That will be called a second messenger. Now, why do we call this a second messenger? We call this a second messenger because a hormone itself is a messenger. So we can refer to a hormone as the primary messenger. A messenger carries information from point A to point B. That's essentially what hormones actually do. So hormones are messengers themselves. They call primary messengers, and then the chemical substance that assists to pull a hormone into a protein hormone into the cell, that will be called, we'll call that a second messenger. So in summary, why is it that lipid hormones can enter the cells easily? It is because of their structural similarity with the plasma membrane of the cell. Structural similarity with the plasma membrane of the cell. Why is it that protein hormones need a second messenger to be able to enter the cell? Is because of their structural dissimilarities with the plasma membrane of the cell. Now, what is a target cell? A target cell is a cell that has receptor sites or attachment sites for a hormone. A target cell is a cell that has receptor sites or target cells or receptor sites or attachment sites for the hormone. Remember we said before hormone can have an effect on the cell, it has to be able to enter the cell. Now, but before a hormone enters the cell, it has to attach itself onto the plasma membrane. Hormones cannot attach themselves just anywhere around the plasma membrane. It has to be specific positions in the plasma membrane. Those specific positions, it's what we call the receptor sites or the attachment sites. And look at it from this perspective. If you want to enter a room, you enter through the door. You cannot enter the room from anywhere. You have to enter through the door. So the receptor site or the attachment site, they are more like the gateway or the door for entering into a cell. So a target cell will be a cell that has receptor site for a particular hormone. If a cell does not have a receptors for a particular hormone, then that hormone cannot have an effect on that cell because the hormone will not be able to enter the cell. So hormones are specific in the sense that they can only affect the activities of certain cells. Now, cells have the ability to increase or decrease their sensitivity or responsiveness to a hormone. Cells have the capability or the ability to increase or decrease their sensitivity or responsiveness to a hormone. And how do cells do that? Cells can increase the number of their receptor sites or they can decrease the number of their receptor sites. If a cell wants to be very responsive to a hormone, it will increase the number of receptor sites for that hormone. Then it will become more responsive to that hormone. It will become more sensitive to that hormone. If a cell wanted to be less responsive to a particular hormone, then it will decrease the number of receptor sites that it actually has. When it does that, it will decrease its sensitivity for that particular hormone. Half-life of a hormone. Every hormone has a half-life. Half-life is simply how long does it take a hormone to be reduced to halve its concentration in blood or in urine? How long does it take for a hormone to be reduced to halve its concentration level in blood or in urine? So if, for example, if at 6 a.m. in the morning, you measured the concentration of a certain hormone in your urine to be 10 micrograms per mil of urine, and then you took your urine sample again at midday, that's 12 noon, 12 p.m., and in 1 mil of your afternoon urine, you measured 5 micrograms of that hormone per mil of urine. You consider you started with 10 at 6 a.m. By noon, you have 5 micrograms. So the concentration of that hormone has been reduced by half. How many hours did it take? From 6 a.m. to 12 noon is 6 hours. So the half-life for that hormone is 6 hours. Hormone interactions. All right, so far, we've kind of given the impression that you can only have one hormone in a cell. Sometimes you could have more than one hormone in a cell. Of course, if you have more than one hormone in a cell, they have to interact with each other. There are 3 ways by which hormones interact with each other. If you check your notes, you should be able to tell me what they are. Number 1, we have synergism, antagonism, and permissiveness. Synergism, antagonism, and permissiveness. So let's start with synergism. Synergism is you find 2 hormones in a cell, and each of these hormones, they have a similar effect on the cell. They have a similar effect on the cell. So when these 2 hormones, when they find themselves in the cell, they will combine their effect on the cell. They will combine their effect on the cell. When they combine their effect on the cell, that effect will be amplified. That effect will be increased. Amplified, increased. One of the examples you have in the notes provided will be the growth hormone and testosterone. Of course, the growth hormone, it makes a cell go larger. Testosterone, the male hormone, it also increases the sizes of the cells. So if you have testosterone and the growth hormone in a particular cell, that cell will go large. Its size, the effect of growth will be magnified as compared to if you had just growth hormone in there or only testosterone in there. That's what we mean by amplification. Antagonism. Antagonism is the opposite of synergism. You have 2 hormones in a cell, and these 2 hormones, they have an opposite effect on the cell. They have an opposite effect on the cell. Let's take glucagon and insulin. That is one of the examples you have in your study material. Insulin will decrease sugar levels in the cell. Insulin will decrease sugar level. Glucagon will increase sugar levels. So this is an example of antagonism. They are antagonistic to each other. One increases, the other one decreases. So insulin decreases, glucagon increases. That will be an antagonistic interaction or relationship. Permissiveness. The presence of a second hormone will increase the effectiveness of the main hormone. So you have two hormones there. You have one hormone that has a direct effect on the activities of the cell. You have a second hormone in there that does not have a direct effect on the activity of the cell. But if this second hormone is present, then the main hormone that has an effect on the cell will be able to bring out or be able to affect that change in that cell at a faster rate. So let's say, for example, you have a hormone that will tell a cell to divide. If there's a second hormone in there, in the presence of that second hormone, you have that cell division taking place at a faster rate, then that interaction will be referred to as permissiveness. So the presence of a second hormone makes the effectiveness of the main hormone or hormone number one increase. Presence of one increases the effectiveness of another one. That will be called permissiveness. All right. Control. So what we've seen so far, we've seen that the hormones play a very important role in the human body. Earlier on, we listed four main functions. We listed four main functions of the endocrine system. Because hormones play such an important role in the human body, they need to be controlled. There are three ways by which hormones are controlled. Negative feedback mechanisms. That will be one. We have hormonal control. They will have neural control. Neural control, that will be nervous system control. Negative feedback mechanisms, hormonal control, neural control, or nervous system control. With negative feedback mechanism is the primary way by which hormones are actually, by which hormonal functions are controlled. Negative feedback mechanism is the number one control mechanism of hormone function. And what does this mean? With a negative feedback mechanism, once as you have high levels of the hormone in your blood, the production of the hormone will stop. Then, once as the levels of the hormone becomes low, then production will start again. So, levels high, production will stop. Levels low, production will begin. This is a negative feedback mechanism. So this is the number one way by which hormones are controlled. Then number two, hormonal control. So hormones can control other hormones. Hormones can control other hormones. A very good example will be if we take reproduction in females. There are only certain a female has to get to the puberty level. We say 11 or swell before matured egg cells can actually be produced, and then eventually the female gets to menopause, and then egg cell production stops. So all of this is controlled by is one hormone controlling another hormone, one hormone controlling another hormone. Then the neural control, of course, the nervous system. The nervous system controls the endocrine system. Remember, we started by saying that there are two control systems in the body: the nervous system and the endocrine system. So whatever happens in the human body, the nervous system actually has control over. Now, given that we have two control systems in the human body, nervous system and the endocrine system, let's quickly see how we can actually do a comparison between these two organ systems. Let's do a comparison between these two organ systems. Remember, a comparison means similarities and differences. Comparison means similarities and differences. I hope you can see this. You have this information in the notes, in the study material that is provided to you. But what I've done here is I've just transformed it into tabular form with the hope that it will become clearer. So you can see here, so this is a comparison table, a comparison chart of the nervous system and endocrine system. The first one is, are they control systems? The answer is yes. Both are control systems. The next one is, do they use chemicals to function? The answer is yes. Collectively, the chemicals that they use to function, the chemicals are called ligands or ligands. The nervous system uses neurotransmitters. The endocrine system uses hormones. Now, how about the effect of their activities? The effect of the activities of the nervous system is localized and short-lived. Localized and short-lived. What does that mean? If, let's say, you stepped on some sharp object, you feel pain in your foot. You're not going to feel pain in your head. You're going to feel pain in your foot only. And that pain will subside after a couple of minutes. So it is localized and it is short-lived. With the endocrine systems, the effect of the endocrine system, on the other hand, is widespread and long-lasting. Widespread and long-lasting. Let's take the growth hormone. The growth hormone is produced in our bodies for a total of 18 years when you stop growing. 18 years. And when you grow within those 18 years, it is not only one part of your body that grows. You grow all over, widespread, long-lasting. The last comparison, comparison here will be transport mode or transmission mode. The nervous system has nerves or neurons that it uses to transport information from one part of the body to another. Nerves or neurons. The endocrine system does not have any transportation means. Remember, we have referred to it as being ductless. Ductless. So it depends on the circulatory system to be able to transport its substances. That will be it for this summary.